It is time for Arthur Schwartz, the food maven. Arthur joins us on a Monday morning, and we get together and we talk about food. Good morning, Arthur.
Good morning. Good morning. And it's my escape as well as my job. Food.
That's right.
Although I have not been able to cook, in weeks. I heard last night on the news, the weather, that this was the hottest summer on record, maybe ever. And yesterday was the coolest day since early June, at least in New York City.
Yeah, it was cool up here, yeah.
Yeah, so finally yesterday I thought, maybe I can cook something. And I defrosted some pork chops, and I was going to do an elaborate thing around them. And then I said, one more day of no cooking. And also, I'd made a trip to the Mill Basin Delicatessen, which is a good half hour from me, with no traffic. Interesting side note, when I first started going to Mill Basin Deli, I guess it was early May, when I finally ventured out of the house, and don't ask. Anyway, I reported on this. And there was no traffic at all between my house and the other end of Brooklyn on Flatbush Avenue, which is a very busy shopping street, usually with way too many double-parked cars, which, ruin everything, and enormous semi-trucks making the turn on a corner could take them 20 minutes. Anyway, there was a lot of traffic the other day, so things are picking up here. So on the way home, I stocked up on the things I like there, which is basically knishes and stuffed cabbage, and we had to eat it before. I didn't freeze it; we needed to eat it, so that's what we had yesterday. And on the way home from Mill Basin, now this is it. I don't think he's going to be here on the weekdays, but I guess we went to Mill Basin Deli on Friday. There was a guy on the street, sort of random street. There was no restaurant behind him, with smoking barrels on the street cooking jerk chicken. So, and he was very Rastafarian, so I figured he's got good jerk chicken. And what do I mean by that is that his hair was in one of those Rasto knitted caps, but this one had so much hair in it, it was bigger than his head. So it was like he had a Rasto cap head over his regular head, and he was making jerk chicken. Quite a scene. Anyway, back to not cooking. I've been eating a lot of fruit, and I must say I do enjoy my yogurt with cut-up fruit if I can't face anything else because it's so hot and humid. Even in air conditioning. So somehow the outside conditions always impact the inside conditions, even if you have air conditioning. Don't you think?
Absolutely. No doubt about it.
Yeah, I don't know what that's actually about. Because you would think, in a controlled atmosphere, as we call it, you wouldn't have that. Anyway, I've been eating a lot of fruit, and as I complain every year for the last 30 years, at least, it's hard to find good summer fruit. You can't pick up any peach, even though it's the peach season, and expect it to be good. Certainly, most supermarkets, and even farmers markets, for that matter, are selling fruit that's not ready to eat. I mean, it's picked while it's still firm or actually hard so that they can transport it. But then what's the eating quality of that? Nothing.
Yeah, that happens with watermelon a lot. They cut up this watermelon, and you get it home, and it's not ripe. It's not ripe.
Well, here's a hint for I find selecting the watermelon is a little bit easier than selecting, tree fruits, stone fruits as we call them, plums, peaches, nectarines, apricots. Forget it, I haven't bought an apricot in years because they're all sort of woolly. In any case, watermelons grow on the ground, and if they're ripe, they will usually have a yellow spot on them where they touched the ground, where they were laying on the place where they were laying on the ground. So if you see an all-green watermelon, that's not as good as one that has a nice yellowy or even orangey patch on it. And I go for that. But the problem with watermelon, Marshall, is that it doesn't taste like it used to. It's basically just sweet.
You're right.
with almost no watermelon flavor.
Yeah, you're right. They've done
Yeah, with the
they've
seedless
yeah,
watermelons, they've also
absolutely.
removed the flavor.
Yep,
No
absolutely.
seeds, no flavor.
Yeah, no, it's true.
And I haven't even seen a watermelon with seeds this year. I may be out in the country somewhere they're growing them, but they're certainly not making it to Brooklyn markets, even Whole Foods. No, they're all seedless watermelons, and they go from little ones that are like a couple bucks to larger ones that may be more, and then they have the cut-up watermelon, where you can clearly see there are no seeds.
Yeah, my grandmother used to get mad at me because I would never spit the seeds out. She said, "You're gonna die." She would tell me.
Or watermelon will grow in your belly.
That's right.
Well, watermelon, when you buy a cut-up, already cut watermelon, you can see what the flesh looks like. And even though I've read other advice, I will say that if it's a darker flesh, it's going to be sweeter. I'm not guaranteeing it's going to have more flavor, but it'll definitely be sweeter. And even though some people think, oh, that's a overripe or spoiled part, no, that's a good part.
Yeah.
But take it home and I'll tell you one thing I'm really tempted to cook now that the weather has broken a little bit is, while I still can, pickled watermelon rind. I used to love that. I haven't made it in many years. In fact, I stopped making it soon after I moved to Cornwall because my neighbor, Marie Coleman, that was one of her specialties, pickled watermelon rind, and hers was actually better than mine. And she would make it every year, so I stopped making it, and I haven't thought about it until just recently when I was thinking, I think I might appreciate the rind more than the interior flesh of this watermelon. So the stone fruits, though, are hard. And by the way, in the case of, while we're on melon, cantaloupe, it is cantaloupe season. I don't know why, but cantaloupes are expensive this year. I could look this up probably and find out that there was a drought or I don't know, but all prices have increased dramatically in the last 6 months. But anyway, stone fruits, if you pick them up, this bothers me. In the supermarket or even in the farmer's market, I see people basically poking their fingers into the fruit. That's not how you tell if it's ready to eat. The first thing you do, I was about to say about cantaloupes, they were expensive, but cantaloupes, what you want to look for is flesh that is not too yellow, more buff-colored, and then it should be heavy for its size. Now, what do I mean? Pick up two watermelons that are the same size. You'll see they have a different weight. The heavier one's going to be juicier, probably sweeter. So that's cantaloupe. So stone fruit, don't poke your fingers into it. Palm it, P-A-L-M. Hold it in your palm. But the first thing you want to do is smell it. Now, if you get a nice aroma from a peach or a nectarine, chances are it's going to be ready to eat. However, it's very hard to find ready-to-eat fruit. So you have to go by some other indications. Now, if the store or market has refrigerated the fruit, that's going to dampen the aroma. It also, of course, retards the ripening, which should have happened on the tree anyway. But as I pointed out, if you harvest ripe fruit, it bruises, so they send it out a little hard. And then it's going to take a couple of days. So I never. So one thing I look for is at the stem end of nectarines and peaches, the stem end should look like it's colored the same as the sides. If you get, for instance, a reddish fruit, but the stem end is still a golden color, a yellow color, the chances are that didn't ripen enough on the tree. But if you get one that's fully colored, then, and I find, by the way, this method works best with the white peaches and the white nectarines. I don't know why that is, but I do have good luck when I do that indication on those white ones, and maybe not so much luck on the yellow ones. The one thing I have not been able to score this summer yet, but I still have a chance, is some freestone nectarines and freestone peaches. I mentioned a couple of weeks ago the peach crostata, which evolved into beach crostata, because I had to make it so often when I was at the beach for my friends. But I now make it as a nectarine crostata because I find nectarines are more reliable than peaches. So anyway, so palm the fruit. If it smells, that's great. If it's fully colored by the stem end, that's great. But palm the fruit, and sometimes you will find if you really do want to eat the fruit within 24 hours, you may in a big pile of fruit find enough to satisfy you, or at least a couple pieces. I don't buy all this fully ripe fruit because then I have to eat it immediately. So something that I figure is going to ripen in a day or two, it's okay, and at least I have it in the house. What other fruits do we have here? Oh, cherries. Very good cherry season. Now, I did not read the endless story in the Times Magazine this Sunday about picking cherries in Washington State. Maybe I should read it. I think it's more about farm labor than it is about actual cherries. But there have been a lot of cherries around and a lot of good cherries around. And what I look for in that case is first shiny and Bing. Almost all the cherries that we buy are Bing cherries. If they're not Bing cherries, they're now being labeled as Rainier cherries, and I forget the third kind, but there's another kind out there. They're not the red, big, glossy red ones. So first look at the cherries, and they should be glossy. If you see some wrinkled ones or some dull-looking ones, those have not been put out recently. So don't buy them. So they should be glossy and dark, and the stems should be mostly attached. If you see a pile of cherries and there aren't a lot of stems, stay away from them too. But if you get big, glossy stems attached, keep them chilled. In fact, I prefer a lot of fruit I like at room temperature. Certainly nectarines, I love at room temperature. They're the sweetest when they're at room temperature. Cherries I like chilled. They're also, I don't know where the grapes are coming from right now. They're not local. I don't think they're California. I haven't looked at the package lately. But there are some really good grapes around at a reasonable price as well. Of course, apples are going to be coming into the market any minute. The earliest apples do arrive at the end of August. And in September, there'll be floods of apples. And, of course, October is the best month to eat apples. But we're talking mainly about summer fruit. What summer fruits did I miss? Blueberries are at their peak right now. I must say, blueberries picked in the northwest corner are still the most memorable blueberries of my life. They're like the wild blueberries, and even not so wild blueberries. I had a neighbor who grew blueberries. But there are really tons of New Jersey and Maine blueberries in the market right now at reasonable prices. And blueberries are one of those foods they used to call a superfood. It's just packed with nutrition. And by the way, for diabetics out there, the best fruit to eat is, in fact, strawberries, blueberries, raspberries, blackberries. And I opened up my nephew's freezer a few weeks ago to find a bag of frozen berries that were labeled keto diet. And I know he and his wife are not on the keto diet, but their nanny is. And Joyce says, "Oh yeah, she's on the keto diet. She's lost a lot of weight on the keto diet, but she's also gained back a lot of weight off the keto diet." My experience with that kind of a diet myself is that you do lose weight quickly, but then you gain it back just as quickly. So it's for life. If you don't want to eat carbs for life, that's okay. So these are the only carbs that are allowed, fruit carbs, that are allowed on the keto diet, the berries. So this is a berry time. And as I said, I'm enjoying, on these hot days, yogurt with fruit. It's a pretty good meal.
It's funny you mentioned that because when I was growing up, my grandfather was a chicken farmer. But on the chicken farm, we had I think it was like a 600-acre farm. We had, this is no lie, we had, of course, blackberries. We had peach tree. We had a pear tree. We had apple trees, and as a kid, when you grow up, when you've got fresh stuff like that, it just never leaves your mind. Never, never.
Yeah, I complain about summer fruit every summer, so it's been a long time since I found summer fruit reliable. But I still eat it, and I still chance it. And my fruit bowl is empty today, except for a kiwi. I must say, these big golden kiwis from New Zealand being imported this year. I've never seen them before. The first ones I got were from the Park Slope Co-op. My neighbor bought them to me, and I told her how great they were. So she just brought me more. But in between, they were in a smaller version, but just as delicious. Were in my supermarket. I don't know. They didn't cost very much at all. They were like 40 cents each, but they were in a box of 6. And they're super reliable. And you can either peel them, slice them, wedge them, and just eat them like that. Or I remembered this from my friend Cecilia's late great boyfriend, Onofrio, in Italy, where after kiwis became popular, the real kiwis from New Zealand, Italy decided, well, we can grow that. And they started planting kiwi vines, and it is a vine. It grows up on trellises. And Onofrio, who was a farmer and grew kiwis, and ate them for his heart. Ironically, he died of a heart attack. But he was in his late 70s. Anyway, Onofrio ate a kiwi every morning, and I remembered how he ate it. He would just cut it in half and eat it like you would eat a half a melon. He would scoop out the flesh with a small teaspoon. So I did that the other day for breakfast, and I enjoyed that. But I've been just peeling them with a vegetable peeler and slicing them up. They are very exotic tasting. It's sort of a cross between melon and citrus, with a totally exotic aroma. If I haven't made those appealing, I don't know how. Anyway, this week I'm obsessed with politics, as I imagine a lot of people are. And I just had this feeling, Kamala Harris' mother was Indian, and her father, who was not really present for her most of her youth, he left. Her parents divorced when she was 7, was Jamaican. And I always wonder, in families like that, who won out at the table? Did her mother have to cook Jamaican food for the father? Did her father learn how to eat South Indian food, which, by the way, is largely vegetarian? Anyway, I did very little search online, only to find a YouTube video of Kamala Harris cooking with Mindy. Now, I keep forgetting this woman's last name. I'm the only person in America who did not know Kaling, who Mindy Kaling was. I went to a movie. I guess I saw this movie in Philadelphia. So I remember coming home from the movie and saying to Brian and Michelle, "Oh, we saw this wonderful movie." It was with by the way, Kaling. She started, and the movie was called Late Night. Now it's coming back to me. Late Night, which she not only starred in, but wrote and produced. So I came back and I said to Brian, "Oh, we saw this wonderful movie. Maybe you should go see it with." And they were both Mindy Kaling fans, Michelle and Brian, and they know her because she was on The Office on television. So Mindy Kaling, also South Indian. Kaling is not her given name. Mindy is, by the way, her middle name, her real middle name. She was named after the Mork and Mindy show. Anyway, there's a YouTube video of the two of them cooking, making dosa and some other stuff And Mindy apparently really knows how to cook too. And it was obvious that Kamala Harris really cooks. And she said her mother would wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning to make dinner for her and her sister, because her mother was a scientist working. I think she was a cancer researcher. And she often had to work late, too. So she would cook in the morning so that the girls would have something to eat in the evening. They apparently took care of themselves quite well after school. And she does, you can tell, I can tell when somebody really knows how to cook and really does cook, or somebody who's just sort of faking it. So the way she cuts an onion is new to me, and I'm going to try it myself. This is the Kamala Harris onion dicing. She takes the onion, and instead of what I would do, cut it in half and then dice it, she takes the whole onion, and she gets a flat end of the onion by slicing off a piece of it, and then she does a crosshatch of slices, and I must say she uses a good sharp chef's knife to do this. She makes a crosshatch of dice on the flat surface, and then she turns the onion on its side and slices down. And by the way, this way, if you use a large onion and it's easy to handle, you can dice as much or as little onion as you want, because if you just want a little onion, you just maybe make two, a half-inch depth and then two slices, and you end up probably with a good half cup of onion on a big onion. So she did this, and she made dosa, and I was very impressed. And it's, by the way, it's very amusing, too, because Mindy is, she's after all a comedian. She used to do stand-up, Mindy Kaling. And then the father, Mindy's father, walks into the kitchen, and it's all very nice. You can look up that on YouTube. The other one then ends up, there's another cooking demonstration by Kamala Harris. She and Senator Mark Warner video from their kitchens, and Kamala is teaching Mark Warner how to make a tuna melt. Now, I forget now how she learned about the abomination that he had made as a tuna melt, and she thought it was so horrible that she really had to teach him how to make a proper tuna melt. And that's what the video is, Kamala teaching him how to make. Now, I'm going to try her recipe, because in her tuna, she puts not only some diced red onion, so I got to see her dice an onion again, but she puts in a dab of Dijon mustard, to which Mark Warner says, "Oh, that's so San Francisco. I never thought of Dijon mustard being particularly San Francisco." But anyway, maybe it is. And then, and mayonnaise, and he asked her what mayonnaise. She said, "Well, I was looking for Hellman's." Now, that's interesting, because she's not from the East Coast.
Yeah.
She's from California. And in Oakland and in San Francisco, Hellman's is not called Hellman's, it's called Best.
Yep.
But she couldn't find Best either. I guess she was in Washington. She may have been in her house in Washington. Or I don't know, San Francisco or Washington. It was a very nice, sleek kitchen. I was surprised at actually how sleek and of the moment it was, whereas Mark Warner's looked like a traditional wooden cupboard kind of kitchen. Anyway, she put in, she flashed the mayonnaise to Mark Warner, but I could see it was the Whole Foods mayonnaise, 365 days, which I've yet to try. Maybe it's good. Mark Warner says, he uses Duke's, because, of course, that's the mayonnaise of the South. And I've been looking for Duke's. It's nowhere to be found here in Brooklyn, but I can order it online. I'm really curious about Duke's mayonnaise. Have you ever had Duke's?
No, just Hellman's. Hellman's is all. That's it.
Yeah, I'm an all Hellman's person. Anyway, it's also a very amusing video, and you can tell that Kamala Harris actually does cook. Only thing I disagreed with in her recipe was she uses water-packed tuna. Apparently, Mark Warner didn't drain his water-packed tuna, so it was really sloppy mess, his tuna melt. And then he didn't melt the cheese well enough. So.
My grandmother made tuna melts, and I loved them. And then I went to a restaurant once years later, and I had ordered a tuna melt, and it was horrible. absolutely just the worst thing
Well,
I
that
ever had.
can be one of the most horrible foods ever.
Yeah.
And then again, it could be delicious.
Yeah.
Everybody likes their own tuna salad best, I think. I don't, unless it's somebody who's totally incompetent, like Mark Warner, Senator Mark Warner. Then I don't know. Everybody likes their own tuna. Like even my sister does not like my tuna because I put too much mayonnaise in, and sometimes I even put celery in. And Kamala Harris also diced celery in this video, and you could tell she's done that before too.
You need celery in tuna salad.
I agree. Well, sometimes I'm lazy and I don't put it in, but yes, mostly I do. But I have never put mustard in my tuna.
No, you're right.
But that might be her South Indian upbringing. You know, she had to have a little zip in there. I don't know, or even Jamaicans, after all, like zip in their food too. I'm not going to go search today for the jerk guy on Flatbush Avenue, but I think I will tomorrow. And if he's not there tomorrow, I'll wait till Friday, where he was last time. He may just be there. I know he was there Saturday because I waved to him and said, "Will you be here tomorrow?" And he said, "Sure, noon to 3." So that was on Saturday. So I'm going to try Friday again. Right. But it's maybe time to cook.
It is time to cook, Arthur. It is time to cook. You know what I've had?
Yeah, the weather broke.
Well, you know what I had for dinner?
We could have another heat wave, but right now it's okay.
The last 2 nights I've made myself some chickpeas with fresh tomatoes, some sweet onion, and some mozzarella with a little bit of oil and vinegar, and
yeah, and you didn't invite me.
It was great. It was great.
I'm sure that's my kind of supper.
Well, next time I'll call you up.
Yeah, and I'm prepared today to do a cold meal, which actually Bob is looking forward to. He loves his beets with feta cheese and some diced scallion, and I'll make some tarator yogurt with garlic and walnuts that I will chop. I won't even chop them. I'll put them in the mini processor. I make almost a paste of walnuts and garlic and mix that in with yogurt. Delish.
All right.
And cold.
All right.
So everybody have a cool week. Enjoy the Democratic convention.
And we'll speak with you next week, and then I
hope so.
We'll see what we're going to prepare to watch the Republican convention. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what kind of food they're eating over there.
Pizza.
Trump eats hamburgers, apparently.
Yes. McDonald's.
Melania, I don't know. You know, even though my family comes from, well, maybe not Slovenia proper, but close enough, I don't really know what Slovenian food is. And I have a hunch that Melania doesn't either.
Yeah, okay.
So,
all right, Arthur, I'll speak to you
next week. Have a great week.
Take care. Arthur Schwartz, the Food Maven, here on Robin Hood Radio. Of course, you can always find Arthur online, robinhoodradio.com. Click on demand, click on Arthur Schwartz, the Food Maven. Underwriting support for Arthur Schwartz, the Food Maven, John Andrews Restaurant on the Hillsdale Road in South Egremont, 413-528-3467, on the web, jarestaurant.com. Rubiners Cheesemongers and Grocers on Main Street in Great Barrington, 413-528-0488, rubiners.com. Hillsdale Home Chef, more information, 518-325-7000, hgshomechef.com.